It is indeed with a very warm heart that we welcome you to today's episode of Tax Matters. So much has been happening in recent weeks and days. First was Ash Wednesday, the beginning of the Lenten season, the 40 days of prayer and fasting by Christians all over the world. It is our prayer that the sacrifices that those who will fast and pray at this period will have effect on the general well-being of the world populace. And of course, on a cheerful note, Sunday, February 14 was Valentine's Day, Day of Love. We do hope that you shared love with your loved ones and that you showed love to those who are in need of love, talking about the less privileged. Last episode on this program, we brought you part 2 of the story of the 2016 Corporate Strategy Retreat of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. We felt compelled to bring part 2 because we couldn't conclude the story in part 1. But even that decision turned out not to have helped enough in enabling us to serve you all that you need to know about what transpired at the 2-day activity-packed event. And so we are compelled once again to show part 3. That's what we're going to do today. Part 2, if you recall, ended at the point when the contributors were contributing to the debate on value-added tax. Without much ado, that is our take-up point today.
I want to start by saying that it's a good thing we're having a strategy session, and I'll speak to 4 major areas that I think the FRS should be looking into in order to raise tax revenue, but also to improve the tax system. The first one is creativity. If you consider today that the price of fuel products, if you take PMS, petrol, officially by the PPPRA as of today, the price is 80 naira. But when you go to the pump, you pay about 86.50 or 87. By law, there's supposed to be VAT on petroleum products. We don't charge it. At the time when the market price was higher than the pump price, government was subsidizing it, and we felt, well, there was no point adding VAT that government will in turn pay. But now we have a fantastic opportunity to do what the law says, and the people will still not pay more than the pump price. 5% of 80 is about 4 naira. You don't need a new law to do this one. I'll move on quickly because of time to the next item, and that is simplicity. At the moment, Nigeria ranks 179 out of 189 economies in the world, which means for people who actually want to pay tax, the process is extremely complicated. It's counterintuitive if your GDP tax ratio is very low, and then you make life difficult for people who want to pay. There was a time I wanted to assist a CEO pay their tax. And this person was in Lagos at the time. And he was supposed to file returns in another state I'm not going to mention, so we couldn't find anything on the internet. So we had to fly to Abuja. From Abuja, took a taxi to go to this other state to collect the form. Took it back to Lagos for this CEO to fill it and sign, because I couldn't sign on his behalf. And the information was confidential. I had to do this alone. I couldn't even send my staff. I had to take another trip to go and submit it. And when I was done, I said to this head of tax authority, I said, why don't you create a website and put this form there so we can download it? Provide information of your bank statement so we can pay from Lagos without coming here. And he was very reluctant and said they do not have a website. I then said to the JTB, why don't you help all the states? In your portal, create a portal for all the states. Collect all the funds from them and upload it there. And at the end of the day, we went around, and some of them were reluctant. They said, because there's so much fraud in Nigeria, they don't want to review their bank account. Since when did people steal money from account by knowing the numbers? Okay? So if you make the process of compliance complicated, you're not going anywhere. And we also have to leverage technology. Accessibility to information must be top-notch. I shouldn't struggle to find a VAT form. I shouldn't struggle to find information about where to file my returns, where to collect CCC. We have a disjointed approach to how we raise tax revenue in Nigeria, and we need to be honest with ourselves. Before you finish saying Jack Robinson, somebody introduces a new bill, they want to collect security tax. I lent this money, another person wants to collect telecommunication tax. There are guys who want to increase education tax to 4%. We're doing all of this in a disjointed manner, and it's not getting us anywhere. Every tax we introduce, we create a fund and a body of trustees. We're duplicating the collection mechanism. I don't know whether it will work, but maybe we should have a coordinating committee for Nigeria on tax matters, where you're going to have representatives of the FRS, the states, the National Assembly, and state. Before anybody introduces anything that is called tax, let's sense check it, whether this is what Nigeria wants and whether it's the direction in which we want to go. Another loophole is, we know the issues with the Pension Reform Act. It was a fantastic piece of legislation, but it was abused. And in the process of recreating it in 2014, guess what we did as a nation? We created a significant loophole so that states can no longer collect PAYE. And I'll tell you what it is. It used to be that if you made any voluntary contribution under the Pension Reform Act, it was tax-free, but you needed to wait 5 years before you could withdraw it. If you withdraw before 5 years, you then have to pay the tax. In our wisdom, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, in 2014 we decided you could contribute any amount voluntarily, and guess what? You can withdraw as you please without paying tax. And I've received calls from so many PFAs who say to me, Taiwo, is there anything happening? Why are people contributing and withdrawing it? People are doing it on a daily basis. A CFO still called me last week and said, my staff said that they want to contribute more to Pension Reform Act. And is it okay for him to allow them? I said, well, based on the law, you can allow them. If on one hand, states are becoming almost bankrupt, and on the other hand, we're so disjointed, creating more loopholes, this is not sustainable. I'll conclude by saying, we say to ourselves that we have moved away from oil, but let me correct us. We haven't moved away from oil, it's oil that moved away from us. Because if you moved away from oil, you would have replaced that revenue. We haven't replaced it. We're going to get to a point where we're not going to worry about low oil prices. It will be no oil revenue. At the moment, the cost of producing a barrel in Nigeria is almost the price at which we are selling. So the net revenue for us is zero.
To my mind, there are two key ways we've got to follow to be able to achieve the objective of enhanced tax collection. One is that we've got to expand the tax base. There's no way we can achieve this by just taxing the same companies. And two, clearly, is that we have to ensure that all taxpayers pay the appropriate amount of tax. And as tempting as it might be, increasing tax rates or creating new tax types, in my opinion, is not the way to go. At a time like this, that the economy is challenged, it is important that businesses are not stifled through huge tax burdens, but are encouraged to continue to do business. After all, it is only profitable businesses that governments can go to and expect to generate tax revenues. And the importance of your collaboration with other regulators, and government agencies such as the Corporate Affairs Commission, Nigerian Communications Commission, etc., cannot be overemphasized. For instance, the ongoing plan to enable automatic tax registration of new companies at the point of incorporation at the CSE is an initiative, in my opinion, that we should bring very quickly into action. I understand that one of the challenges that your officers have encountered is visiting the registered addresses of companies obtained from the CSE, only to find that the companies are not at those addresses. So perhaps you should consider, again, working through the CSE, getting companies to include their business addresses when they file their annual returns with the CSE. That way, you can get to where they actually do businesses. Similarly, and considering that every active business is likely to have a bank account, you may consider obtaining information from deposit money banks and other financial institutions in Nigeria. There has been calls recently for us to increase VAT rate in Nigeria, and that call has been based on the fact that our rate is 5%. May I suggest that a plan to increase the VAT rate should also be followed by a consideration of how the VAT operates in Nigeria, because our reality is that, substantively what we have is a sales tax, where most companies do not recover the input VAT that they incur in their in service that they bring in to be able to provide the services to their customers. So it needs to be a comprehensive review of not just the VAT rate, but also making sure that companies are able to recover VAT that they pay on their input VAT.
Do you provide goods and services? Then you must answer these important questions. Are you registered for VAT? Do you charge VAT on the goods and services you provide? Do you keep records of all your transactions? Do you file VAT returns? Do you remit VAT collected to government coffers? If your answer to any of these questions is no, then you are breaking the law. The law demands total compliance. Therefore, you must register for VAT. You must charge VAT on goods and services. You must file VAT returns. And you must remit all VAT collected on behalf of government within 21 days to the bank nearest to you. To do otherwise is a crime punishable everywhere in the world. VAT is prescribed by the law. Do the right thing. Collect and pay VAT. This message is from the FIRS. It pays to pay your tax.
Tax Matters drew Mr. Idele aside for further elucidation on his proposition. Talking about widening the base of VAT collection, some are even talking about increasing the rate. But talking about widening the base, among other things, you suggested the collection of VAT from the pump price, so to say, the price of fuel at the pump, putting VAT of 5% on that. Exactly what are you talking about?
Yeah, okay, so thank you very much. Based on the VAT law, there's VAT on any product unless it's specifically exempt or zero rated. Yeah. Now, petroleum products are not exempted, they are not zero rated, unless when you export them. So which means for local consumption of petrol, AGO, kerosene, there's VAT. Now, at the point when petrol, for example, was, subsidized, it didn't make any sense for government to add VAT and then government will pay it themselves, because the market price was more than people were paying at the pump. But because of the decline in the price of crude oil, we now find that the market value that you should pay at the pump, according to PPPRA's website as of today, is 80 naira. Now, I haven't seen anybody has paid 80 naira, so we're paying 87 naira, 86.50, and there's no tax because the tax has been removed since 2005 or thereabouts. Now, I'm saying this is an opportunity for us to now do what the law says we should do. The law has always been there. So if you put 5% of 80 naira, it's about 4 naira. Even the market price at the pump is still going to be less than 87 we are paying now. And government can legitimately make money from VAT on petroleum products. So, and this will help us with, we have some of the states now almost bankrupt, they can't pay salaries. Whatever you collect in VAT, 85% of it goes to state and local government, and that will help them with their revenue collection.
Won't that push up the price of fuel at the pump?
No, it wouldn't, because, like I said, the retail price, including marketers' margin, distribution, everything, is 80 naira 77 kobo. So if you add, and we're still paying 87, so there's an over recovery that is with the marketers. Technically, that should be remitted to subsidy fund. I don't know whether that's working. But if you now put VAT there, it means that the over recovery is reduced, but the amount you pay at the pump cannot go higher than the 87 because it's still less than 87, even with the VAT.
What gives you the confidence that the marketers, the dispensers, okay, the owners of these fuel stations will buy this agreement and not seek to add whatever that percentage amounts to on the price of fuel.
Unless they are saying they disagree with PPPRA, that their template is rubbish and is not reliable. You cannot come and say, you know what, because you have added 4 naira to 80 naira, which is now 84, you want to charge more than 87. It cannot add up. It's either you are disagreeing with PPPRA that their template is rubbish, otherwise nobody can increase the price at the pump because of the VAT, because the VAT together with the retail price without subsidy is still under what people are paying now at the pump.
Tax Matters also spoke to the executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service on this matter and other matters arising. What form will compliance and enforcement be taken in the next few months, going forward, to ensure that we optimize collection from non-oil sources?
Well, first of all, we're talking about strategies of achieving a certain objective, which is to collect all revenues that are due to government. In terms of compliance, we've already started going around the nation. Like I said, to date, in the last 100 days, we have added close to 359,000 new corporate accounts, and we expect to hit 500,000 before March 31st. Now, here, we're talking about ways we can improve service to taxpayers. One, to make it more convenient, so those who want to pay find it convenient to pay. For those who have outstanding issues, to try and clear any backlog, make sure that we don't have issues outstanding. And then thirdly, to make sure that our staff key into the new vision. From all discussions, it is clear that Nigeria as a nation is relying that we make up for that shortfall in revenue from oil. So basically, we're ready to step up and step in to cover that gap.
You have set an ambitious target of 4.95 trillion. We're surprised to look at the figures. VAT from which you collected 767 in 2015. You want to collect 2 trillion. Where is this confidence coming from?
Let me put it this way.
Okay.
The 359,000 new corporate accounts that we have just put into the tax net have never paid 1 kobo of VAT, and they're operating businesses. The 500,000+ that we have on our books, close to 127,000 have still not filed returns for last year. So we've looked at the whole situation, and we have looked at what we expect to get logically, and that is why we're confident that we'll not disappoint Nigeria.
Dr. Teju Moni of the CITN, the president of the CITN, asked one pertinent question yesterday, which we have asked you before. You were in Lagos State as chairman. Now you are at the top of the FRS. This taxpayer identification number, 3, 4, 5 years ago, it became a JTB project. But we still have FRS thing, JTB thing. When are we going to have a single TIN?
Well, you've rightly said it. That tells you that there's need for improvement in the TIN process. We're looking into that, and we'll certainly make sure that Nigerians get a process that has additional value. The current card that they have can't store tax history. So it does have some limitations, and we're putting things in place to ensure that we first of all integrate all various tax IDs from various states, because apart from Lagos, we do have 2 or 3 other states that have their own tax ID number, which is in line with the law. But to have a national tax ID, we're going to work with them, integrate all the information, and make sure that we come up with one acceptable national tax ID card.
So we take it that you have gone back to the drawing board. So what's the timeline like?
Well, with this, if I was going to give a timeline, I'll say within the next 6 months, we should have made appreciable progress on it.
Okay. You brought out a new one yesterday, FEET, FEETT. What's that about?
Well, that's basically in terms of full meaning, it's Federal Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams. A lot of people still do not understand corporate tax. A lot of people, like I said, had not been registered. We had to go on the street to register these 359,000 additional taxpayers. So this team will be out on the streets, speaking in various languages, helping people register for tax, checking on compliance of VAT and withholding tax, which will be paid monthly. So that's basically their role. They'll be out on the streets.
One of your partners now, because you have rightly referred to them as partners, and they have accepted, the auditing firms, the tax consulting firms. One of the speakers yesterday suggested collection of VAT at the pump. Okay, not exactly at the pump, from the purchase of fuel at the pump, at the filling station. How workable is that? Do you agree with that in the first place? If you do, how workable is it? And is there any reason to fear that it can affect the price of fuel?
Well, you have said it rightly. You see, the price of petrol or crude oil is very volatile. When you introduce a new tax on an item of that nature, and the price is subject to change, a number of people are praying that the price will go up. So if you put in a new tax and the price goes up, then it's not going to be in the interest of Nigeria. So he was looking at it from a purely tax and revenue generating position. I believe that the current government has the interest of the people at heart, but at the same time understands the current economic situation that all of us are facing. And I'm sure we not want to burden people with any additional tax if it's not required.
That's very comforting, sir. Tax Matters also asked the Minister of Finance to explain the reason behind our brimming optimism that the FRS can deliver.
Well, I think it's two things. It's the knowledge and the data that we have about the size and shape of the economy. And when we look at our revenue collection as a percentage of the volume of activity in the economy, we see that there is a huge opportunity to increase our tax collections, both VAT and corporation tax, and indeed all taxes, withholding taxes and so on. So that's the first thing, is that the data tells us that the size of the Nigerian economy is such that we should be collecting much more. So that's one. The other thing is leadership, and it's important that the chairman, I call him Chairman Fowler, is standing by me. When you have leadership that has a track record of performance, of focus, it gives you an additional level of confidence that yes, the opportunity is there, but we also now have the right people in place to deliver on that opportunity. So I'm extremely confident that FIRS can lead the charge in collecting revenue. But it's more than just collecting revenue. It's creating good corporate citizens within Nigeria, where everybody pays their fair share, so that when the benefits come from the investments that we will make, we all feel entitled to those benefits because we've all paid our fair share.
What kind of support will you be giving to the FIRS?
Everything they need. Everything they need.
What else is there to say? The Federal Inland Revenue Service says it can do it. The federal government says that it has confidence that the FIRS can do it. What remains is the support of the citizenry. Your support, my support, and our support begins with easy steps. We call them easy steps to compliance. What is the first step? Register as a taxpayer and obtain a taxpayer identification number. And how do you do this? Simply by visiting the nearest office of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. If you have problems locating the closest office to you, visit www.firs.gov.ng. Click on Tax Office Locator. Voila! And remember, TIN, Taxpayer Identification Number, is free. Free. What is the next step? File and remit value-added tax returns every month. Every kobo that you collect as VAT from your customers, you must remit into government coffers by the 21st day of the following month. The third step, your company's income tax return is due 6 months after the end of your accounting year. Your accounting year is ordinarily 12 months. For the purpose of this discussion, if your accounting year is January to December, by the 30th of June of the following year, your company's income tax returns are due with payment. If you are a newly registered company, within 6 months, you must have registered as a tax-paying company and you must have obtained TIN, Taxpayer Identification Number, and your first return is due 18 months after commencement of business. Let's continue this discussion next week on this same station, same day of the week, and we assure you that you'll be educated and you'll be enlightened. Have a great week ahead.